Hello and welcome to this episode of How to Be a Great GM. Today's episode we're looking at questions that have come in on the channel and on the website www.greatgamemaster.com. And the question is, how do you run a module? So module. How do you run a module at a convention or for that matter at home if you've got some module that you've downloaded or that perhaps you've bought? Modules are quite tricky things because it's somebody else's plan that you're now going to try and reenact or follow through. The reason why I personally don't like modules is because if the players have got hold of the module before you, from various sources, they are going to be expecting certain things, and if you don't give them, some players might voice their concerns. Again, this is not something that you want as the Game Master. It's your story, you're in control. So modules can be tricky, but that's not the focus of today's video. Today's video is how to run a module. So the very first thing that one should do, and this module layout, and I'll put it up on screen nice and big, but this module layout is the module layout that our biggest convention uses. I printed it on two pages per single page to save paper, but the thing that most modules have is that they start with an overview. For me, the overview is where I begin. I just read the overview, I look at the overview, and I say, okay, this setting is in 2014, the Mayans were right, the whole planet shifted 90 degrees, the sun flared, and now we have mutants and very little water, and people travel around desperate to try and find it. Human caravans travel the wastes of Earth, looking for water, original plants not nuked by the sun, and a little piece of happiness. That's the setting synopsis. Well, now already I go into my little head going, okay, post-apocalyptic, sun tilted, everybody's looking for water. Right, now I can know what I'm expecting and what my players will be expecting. Most often modules at conventions are posted up with the little write-up so that people want to sign up for that particular course. So when they're signing up, what's going through their mind? So step one in working with a module is, what do we expect? Hopefully the module writer gives us what we expect and in a new and different way. If they don't, well, that may be your first pause for concern and for adjustment. This is the critical thing, and I know that there's going to be lots of people out there who say, oh, you should never adjust a module. You shouldn't ever adjust a module. Let me tell you, when I run a convention module, I often get the page, I read the overview, and I go, okay, that's what I think of the module. Now we're going to play this game, run in this setting, and I'll use the characters that have been generated, but the actual story mechanics itself, I don't care about, because clearly the person who wrote it had a good idea, but then couldn't execute on it. So don't be afraid to do that. But anyway. Right, so once you've got the setting idea in your head, and if they don't have a convenient little setting synopsis, or if they haven't bothered to fill it in, just quickly glance through the pages, look at some of the introductions, and go, okay, I think this is kind of like this setting, or it's a that setting. Again, what do you expect, and what are your players going to be expecting? The reason why I say that you have to keep that at the front of your mind whilst going through the module is because if you can't deliver what the players are expecting, or if the module doesn't deliver what the players are expecting, you are not going to do very well in running this module. A great GM can make a bad module very good, a bad GM can make a good module very bad, and a bad author of a module will just ruin everything unless the GM steps in and makes a change. So it's up to you to make this work, regardless of how well or how badly it's written. There is a story synopsis. The story synopsis is quite useful sometimes. If you go through it, you go, okay, cool. So the module's called Bad Habits, and it's blah, blah, blah. The module PCs hear about a place where there is flowing water. Their mission is to get there first. That's it. The action starts when they are in a bunker stealing some battery or other which is needed for their 6-wheeled water tanker. Of course, there is also a convent of nuns who are happy to work with the PCs until nightfall, when the nuns, all mutants, turn into feral, tentacled monsters who crave spiritual energy locked inside of our PCs. Right, good. So we've kind of got our post-apocalyptic setting. We start with a daring raid of a battery, and then there's a convent of nuns that turn into tentacle energy-sucking creatures afterwards that go after the PCs. Very simple layout, very simple plan. Okay, fantastic. Now we know what this whole module's about, so we don't actually have to carry on reading any further if we don't want to. We need a military base, we need military people that our PCs can overcome. We need nuns. Nuns need to have certain statistics in nun form and in tentacle form. We need the convent in case the party goes anywhere near the convent and they want to have a look at what's happening in the convent. And then we need the source of flowing water. That's it. The rest of the module is really just fluff and will make our lives easier if it's written well. A flowchart. I always like flowcharts. There's a little flowchart attached here. Again, I'll put it up. Chase and military complex, map of location where they find the water source, I'm assuming. Long drive to get there, meeting the nuns. Night attack by the tentacled creatures. Escape and race, arrive at the valley, which is where I'm assuming the water source is. Attack of the nuns, and then showdown. Lots of steps here. If it's a 4-hour module, we're going to drop some of these. I can guarantee you we're going to drop some of these. The chase and the military complex. If that takes more than an hour, and yes, I know people were very critical of my exact timings. They don't have to be necessarily exact, but they're for you to internalize, not for you to go, oh, it's 9:15, right, everyone drops dead. You have to work it into a narrative, of course, but you need to stick to time. There's nothing worse than running a convention module where you've got, say, 4 hours or 3 hours, and by the end of hour 3, your guys are still at the long drive. They haven't got to the water source. They haven't even faced the tentacled nuns. You've lost the whole point of this module. All right. So timing is important when running a module, and it's something that you have to bear in mind. So by looking at this flow chart, you go, okay, cool. Now, if there isn't a flow chart, this is something that you can do very quickly. Usually you've got 15 minutes to prep before the players arrive and sit down at your table and start asking you awkward questions. So make a flowchart. If one doesn't exist, go, okay, cool. Well, we know we've got find location of water and military complex, get to convent, which is near the water source, engage with the nuns, race with the nuns to the water source, defeat the nuns. We've got 5 sections, basically. And if we look at it in a 1-to-1 method, the military complex and getting to the nuns is your introduction section. So you've got an hour for that. Then you've got 2 hours for racing to the source of the water, getting to the source of the water and fighting whatever's guarding it, and then you've got an hour for your showdown with the tentacled mutant nuns and whatever else may happen to be for your players to get to the water. That's very, very easy to run. Then there's some other statistics here. I see someone's actually tried to put in some timing, which is cute. They say here 4 hours, so they've worked out how long it should take. Then designer's notes. I always love designer's notes. This is supposed to be a fun module taking the piss out of apocalypse type settings. In this world, anything can and will try to eat you. Oh, well, there's another interesting clue. Right, zombie plants. It's also supposed to be action-packed and never, never slow. Okay, good to remember. If the party's taking years to decide on a course of action, throw some mutant nuns at them, or the military guys can come back for their battery. Whatever, just keep the module moving. The only critical point the party needs to achieve is getting to the water. So get them there and blow stuff up, kill, maim, and destroy. There's a little footnote here. Also, each of the characters breaks into song from time to time, or should do so. If they don't find a way to motivate them. This is a musical apocalypse, after all. A musical apocalypse. Okay, that's now interesting. So this is a module that's stock standard up until that point. So if you then carry on going through it, we now have our overview. We don't need to look at the next several pages of read this first to the players, describe that, here's a thing here, here are all your checks and stuff. That's useful. That is useful on the fly if I need to know what listen check they need to do to hear a nun slithering across the rocks in the valley that they're heading towards. There's some listen checks. Oh, I see here's a mutant oak tree. There's a tank. That sounds exciting. There's a tank with statistics here. 120 hit point tank. St. Maria Ninja Nun. I like that sounding too. All right, so we've got all of that. That's fantastic. Right, so now here we go. Song points. this is now the glossary. Song points are used as bonus hero points. That's the particular style that this module is written in. The party, if they sing one of the supplied songs, gains one additional song point. The idea behind this is to add a bit of flavour. Each character has a song attached to their character sheet. Extra points should be awarded for trying to sing, being able to sing, and perhaps not being able to sing. Please note, this is not a skill check, it is a player-based result. Dehydration points are used to keep track of water consumption in this difficult environment. For every one dehydration point, add 5 to the difficulty roll versus all constitution-based checks. If the characters have more dehydration points than their constitution modifier, they immediately pass out. Dehydration points can be removed 1 point per hour by consuming 1 litre of water. This is meant to be used as a cattle prod to drive the players to find water. Use them whenever the characters exert themselves. Okay, so we've got this song component now. Do we want it? This is the final point when looking at a module, is we've gone through the important bits. The rest is, if you have time to read, that's great. If you don't, move on. It doesn't really matter. We know the meat of the subject. So the cool points, this song thing, it could be cool if you've got players who like to throw themselves into the characters, and I'll go through one of the characters shortly, and who, well, might enjoy having a little bit of a sing-song. Conventions are often a place where people can let their hair down, if you like. They're surrounded by kith and kin, all geeks together type of thing. So if they want to try and sing, well, that's fantastic. And here's a mechanic now which will give them extra points to use during combat or whatever to make it more dramatic. And the song thing might be quite cute. The dehydration points, that's a cool point to bear in mind given the setting. The actual system that they're using, I think it's a D20 system, is not necessarily geared up for that kind of thing. Adding in the dehydration points is great. But now here's a critical thing. You need to tell the players about dehydration points before you start the game. Players, remember, will be getting a pre-generated character sheet. On the pre-generated character sheet, I don't think it says anywhere that there is such a thing as dehydration points. So if we look at the character sheet, since we're here, now that we know about our cool points, here is the character sheet. There we go. They've got a nice little photograph there, stolen from someone, violating copyright, but that's okay. Song points. So it is written on the character sheet. Song points, every time the player sings the following song, you gain 1 SP, song point, at the discretion of the GM. If you don't know the tune, make it up. You don't need to sing the whole song, just a verse or two, or until the rest of the table begs you to stop. So for this character, we've got Walter Ducklin here, and he is obviously human. He is a tough, dedicated hero. Looks like he's a bit of a wise old warrior, quite good stats there. He uses a 10-gauge shotgun and a hunting rifle. His song is, I am the very model of a modern major general. I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the fights historical, from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. The general song from Pirates of Penzance, I believe, by Gilbert and Sutherland. So he has a song, and it's written out on the character sheet, and it goes all the way down. There's also a little bit of a biography. Walter was there at Ground Zero. He was being awarded a medal for his efforts in saving some stupid government in Africa from a coup in the explosion. Sadly, he can remember of the before times, and this stupid song was sung by his platoon on the eve of their disembarkation. Now he drives around in Berlin, his auto home, collecting lost souls, helping them where he can, and generally being a badass, who sings about being a major general. Go figure. So that's his thing. Finally, let's look at what map handouts we have. So they're printed small, but we've got a church and we've got a location, which is quite nice, location map, which we'll obviously give to the players once they've rescued everybody from the military base. And then we've got the layout of Berlin, the automobile that they're traveling around in with this modern major general character. Now that we've gone through that and we've kind of looked at it, we can go, all right, fantastic. Now, how do we move forward? How do we now start? And what we do now is we go back and now we start to actually read through this content, because once you've got through page 1 or 2 of the actual scripted module, if your players are sitting down and they're ready to start, you don't have to carry on reading. Let them sit down and you say, right, this is the world that you're in, and off you go. You don't need to worry about the rest. Now, there are prescribed modules in lots of different world-spanning systems, where, like Pathfinder Society, for example, where the modules are written with very specific outcomes and very specific magical items to be given out, because these are not necessarily one-off modules, they are long-sustaining campaigns run over the internet and they're all very good and wonderful. If you are a GM and you come across that module during a convention, please ignore everything that I have said in this video. You have to follow it to the letter, you have to give them the prescribed equipment and items and experience points for the module because it fits into a grand scheme. If you're interested in Pathfinder Society or the Dungeons & Dragons equivalent or any of the other ones that are busy floating around out there, I best suggest you go and watch their videos or read their pages and pages of rules and things on how to run their modules. It's a very different experience, so you cannot apply that learning or this learning to those kind of modules. But if you're at a convention and you're just having fun, all of this is absolutely applicable. Now, as of today's video, we are changing things up here at at Great GM and at baconrpg.com. Things are changing a little bit. We are moving player videos onto How to Be a Great Game Master channel. Bacon channel is remaining Bacon. For those of you that don't know what that is, that's our role-playing channel where we have a group of people who role-play these crazy adventures that I come up with. They are staying there. Player is moving here. And we are now moving into a space where I have to be absolutely honest with you, we are heading towards a more commercial approach to this channel. If I can make this a full-time occupation, well, I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. So our Patreon tiers and things are changing up, and Patreons will now have access to a second video on module breakdowns and how to work a con properly, and they will have access to that video exclusively. But don't worry, I've given you everything that I would normally give you in a How to Be Great GM video. This is just extra content. That's how I wanted you to know about that. Until next time, leave your comments below, give us your thoughts, give us your opinions. Keep going to howtobeagreatgamemaster.com to write your suggestions for future videos, to check out what's happening there. If you want, there's links downstairs now in where to get the D20 role-playing system, D20 modern role-playing system. That book, I think it's out of print now, but what an amazing setting if you want to run modern day campaigns or post-apocalyptic or near future or actually World War II stuff. They've got a range of stuff there, and I have all of their books. I absolutely love it as a system. It was D&D 3.75 for those of you trying to keep track of where it fits in the grand scheme of things. Sure, there we go. So until next time, I wish you the very happiest of gaming and running modules.